My son did not want to go into the family line of work with his father. Well, guys, this whole story is about how the father just absolutely hates the fact that his son wants to be a chef. He insults that line of career and says, "Oh, you're just a cook. You're not going to make any money, blah, blah, blah." But this was his son's passion we're talking about. Well, that passion would soon extinguish because he was involved in an accident while cooking in the kitchen one day. The gas stove seemed to have been tampered with, and it exploded, leading to very, very bad burns. But there's more to this story, because they find out that that gas did not go off by itself. In fact, it was tampered with. And you'll never guess who did it. If you're guessing his own father, well, you might be correct. Am I crazy for thinking my husband deliberately hurt my son? Now I can't live with him anymore. I used to think that my husband was the best in the world. I've been married to him for more than 20 years, and not once has he done something to hurt our family. There's been difficult times, yes, but never any time where I considered leaving. But now, I've spent the week Googling the cheapest places to live in the country. Well, to be honest with you, I have 2 kids, but I will only take one with me, and the one that he hurt. I've seen a side of this man that I once thought was a myth. I've seen the shark that people call him, for he is ruthless businessman. I knew when I married him that when it came to business he would always be ruthless, and when I met him, I thought that he was cold and a bit inconsiderate. But when I saw what he was doing for his family, I understood why he did so. So, when we met, he was just 21 years old and taking care of his family because neither of his parents could work. He was always working and never had time for friends, let alone a relationship. I knew him for 2 more years before he gave me a chance. He was actually forced by our mutual friends to go on a date with me, and slowly he opened up to me, and we have been inseparable ever since. He's never shown that side to me or our kids. He turns it off as soon as he's back in the house, and he's a person who's focused and who wants everything to go his way. He simply does not care about nothing mediocrity. He wants everything to be absolutely excellent, and these are values that he has instilled in our children and our son, who's 18, turning 19 very soon, and our daughter, who just turned 13. He's made sure that they get the best education and best care, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have no problem with it. I like taking care of our home and our children. We raised 2 beautiful children who are intelligent and well-mannered. Our son has always been top of his class. He wants to be an engineer one day. Well, he wanted to do engineering, but in the last year he's discovered his love for cooking. Naturally, I supported him. Being a chef is a fulfilling career, and I got him enrolled in after-school cooking classes, but did not tell his dad because I knew that he would not like it. His father is set up on him becoming an engineer. He doesn't want his kids to suffer like he once did. He wants them to have a backup because he never had that. He had to work hard. When he finished school, he took his dad's auto shop, which had not been generating any money for years, and absolutely turned it around. Now he has multiple shops across the country and has expanded toward car manufacturing. Hearing that his son wanted to be a cook was not going to impress him much. I knew him, but I figured that once my son finished school, I would talk to him nicely about it, then he would come to terms with it, I knew that he would never stop our son from pursuing his dreams, even if they were not what he initially wanted. So, the summer before my son finished high school, I sat down with my husband and told him about our son's newfound passion. He was not happy. He said that while the career was important, it was simply not for his son. I told him that Amelia, our daughter, also had an interest in engineering and mechanics, so she could just take his place, and he just told me that he would simply not accept it. Without consulting me, he canceled our son's classes. Jared came home crying one day, telling me that his teacher told him he was no longer enrolled, and I was enraged and ended up confronting my husband about it. I asked him why he did not care about our son's happiness, and he told me that he cared and I was just being a little too emotional. He knew his son best and knew where his talent laid. So then, I decided that it was time I upped my game a bit and pitched this to him in a way that he could understand. I did my research into my son's career field, the opportunities, etc., then made a PowerPoint presentation for him. I got our daughter involved as well. Amelia helped with all the pictures and interesting facts, and yes, she's very creative. It was a fun little project to do with my kids on the weekend, and once my husband came back home, we had a meal together as a family, and I told him that I had something interesting to show him. He was mind blown by the food. He could not stop asking for seconds. Wait till I told him that our son was the one who crafted the food. He was going to be mind blown. After dinner, we sat down and presented Jared's 5-year plan to him. It included how he was going to go to culinary school, intern with somebody very skilled, then he was going to start his own restaurant. If things did not work out, he was going to just go back to school and study food technology. I was so proud of the way everything turned out. Jared was so excited. He waited eagerly for his father to agree. But then, my husband got up and started ripping our presentation to shreds. He has never lost it like that in front of our kids before, so I shouted at him to stop. But he only got angrier. I told Jared to take Amelia out, then I waited for him to finish his outburst. After he was done, I told him to grow up. He could sleep in the guest room if he wanted, but I did not want to see him for a while, and he even tried to apologize and tell me that he had an explanation for it, why he felt such a way. I told him I didn't care. He was being selfish, and this was not the man that I married. A week later, the incident that changed our life forever happened. A few days before, Ronald has done a complete 180, telling me that he got our son a gig at a good restaurant in town and he was going to just help out in the kitchen, but it would be a good learning experience for him. He did it for a while. Every day he came home very, very tired. Ronald said that one of these days he was going to break when he saw that it was not easy work, but my son did not break. He did his shifts and came home and cooked for us too, showing us what he learned. One day, I came home screaming. No one else was in the house except my son, and I will not describe what I saw because it's so graphic and it just made me so mad. But there was a problem with our gas stove, which led it to explode while my son was in the kitchen. He got burnt pretty badly and suffered from smoke inhalation. He was in the hospital for 14 days while he had skin grafts done. I was horrified. I could not sleep as I replayed that scene over and over in my head, and the suspicion that I had. I knew that my husband had done it. That night, when my son was in the hospital, I could not sleep. He got a phone call and went to the balcony to answer it, and he said, "It's done." His dreams went up into flames, and I felt chills down my spine. I told myself that there's no way he was speaking about our son, but I had to know why the gas exploded, so I got our supplier to do an investigation. They simply told me that it looked like there was some tampering, but it was not for certain. And then I saw the bag in his car. He was driving us to the hospital one day as I was sitting in the back seat. Amelia was in the front seat because she called shotgun. I felt something in between the seats and it was plastic. It was something, a bottle labeled hazardous. And then there was some scissors and tape, and I did not think much about it, but I decided that I had to know for certain if my husband was indeed a very bad person, and if he did this to teach my son a lesson. I looked through his phone when he was asleep, only to find texts between him and my son's boss, where he told him to make our son suffer so that he would never consider that career. It was all starting to make a little bit of sense to me. He wanted our son to get hurt, so that he would never think about being a chef again, and he succeeded. I kept this all bottled up to myself while my son recovered, and I thought about what to do next. Then our son woke up and he started to recover. He came back home and I thought that he was fine, but he was not fine. For when he entered the kitchen as I was cooking, he started to scream. And he threw himself to the floor and rolled around, and I was simply not sure what to do. I was scared for him. And when I tried to touch him, he scratched at me. This was the first of many mental breakdowns that he had. You see, now he has a fear of fire, and his therapist told us he is now traumatized. I assumed that a few months of therapy would get him back on track, but it never did. My son has had trouble focusing for months now. He cannot sleep in a room alone, and every time he's asleep, he wakes up because of nightmares. He seems to be doing better for the past few weeks, so I sent him back to school. With disastrous results. Every day I look at my husband and my hate grows. I know that it's him. As I needed further proof that he was the one responsible, Jared hates the sight of his father. I've tried to probe him and ask him if his father's responsible, but he doesn't want to say a word. I can truly say that his father has broken him, and I am angry. I tried to get the police to investigate, giving them the proof I got from the gas company, and they told me it's simply not enough. It was an accident. They've suggested that I should sue the gas company, and I'm not going to sue them. I know who it is. I see the way he looks at our son. He seems almost guilty at times, and he avoids spending time with him altogether. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live with someone that I hate with all my heart. I've heard stories over the years about how far has he gone to get what he wanted. But I've told myself that these are just stories and he's not an actual monster. That those stories just spark fear so that he'll be respected. He cannot be a monster. But now, when I look at him, I see the man who caused my son to have this mental breakdown. Even before that, he was letting the chef overwork him so that he would quit. Now, I wonder how far he can go next time if one of us does not do as he pleases. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, today's story is absolutely wild. I want you guys to pause the video, go down to the comment section, and let me know. Do you think OP's husband was responsible for this one? If he was, it's just sickening. I'll tell you the title of the next update. It is Update Number 1, Fortune Favors the Brave. Guys, this story's about to get insane. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It supports me so much. It only takes a second. Thank you. Here's your update. I knew that all this suffering could not be for nothing. There was someone out there looking out for me, and I knew that all I had to do was wait for an opportunity to get revenge for what he did to my son. As a mother, I feel pain when I look at my son. These days, he's even doing better. I have sent him to school for a month now, and there haven't been no problems. He still has bad dreams and the occasional panic attack, though, but at least now he's back to normal and I can focus my attention on little Amelia. Our family has been healing. My husband and I are fine once again, and we even joke and laugh together once more. It feels like old times a bit, and he says that he's happy that we're back to normal once again. It is all an act, because every time he touches me, I feel sick. I feel angry, but I control it. For I am biding my time. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and this is a game with very high stakes, and they have gone even higher at this point. His father passed away recently. It was sad, but not too sad because he was old and was sick for a while. His father had barely been laid to rest when he told me that his siblings wanted shares in his company. That was crazy. On what grounds? Putting everything aside, he has supported that family, even the siblings who are turning on him now. They say that he would not be here without their father's auto shop, so he owes them. That is so rich coming from them after all he's done for them. That company is my children's legacy, and I'll be damned if two people who have not earned it get it. I was mad. Those two were ungrateful, and he shared the same sentiments. He spoke to his lawyer, who advised him to be prepared for an awful long court battle. There was a chance that they would get his shares, since after all, the initial auto shop belonged to his whole family. He was gutted when he heard the news. We had to be honest with ourselves and consider what this could mean for our children. If they got shares and ran the business to the ground, which they likely would, then what would our kids be left with? I decided to go and speak to them about maybe settling out of court. I was willing to give them $150,000 each for them to leave the matter alone. They had completely changed from siblings that I once knew, and they simply told me that they also wanted a piece of the pie, because my husband has been hoarding it for far too long. I came back home defeated and told him what they said, and he told me that he knew that they would never agree. So, he decides to make a plan of action. I asked him what the plan was, and he told me that he was going to transfer everything to me, so that by the time they were in court, there would be nothing to fight over. I told him that I would support him through anything, and this was not for me. This was for my children, who unfortunately had nothing but his fortune to rely on. You see, I had a plan if things did not work out with him, which was to go back to the work and take care of my own kids. I was unsure if I would divorce him or just split from him. All I knew was that I did not want him in my life much longer. His suggestion was one of the most foolish things that he's ever thought of. You see, he prides himself on being a strategist, but with this, he has shot himself in the foot. He wants to transfer everything to me? So that when his siblings try to claim from him, they'll get nothing. I told him the idea was absolutely brilliant, genius even, and that he should draw up the papers ASAP with the lawyer. I smiled at him as I thought of what he had just done. He had given me everything I needed to destroy him and get my little bit of revenge. I know that this has done terrible things and that he has hurt people. He should not be allowed to get away with that, so once he gets everything into my name, I will make sure I get justice for my son and for all those people that he hurt. I sealed my betrayal with a home-cooked meal. I made the very same dish that our son made for us when he was still learning how to cook, and his father snapped at him. Now I call that art. He was stupid that he did not even realize it under his nose. Jared asked to help me with the dishes, something that he never does, and he usually goes off to watch a movie until he falls asleep, but of course, I let him. "I remember, Mom," he suddenly said. This was after everyone had left and we were loading the dishwasher, so I asked him, "What do you mean? Pass me that cloth, I need to wipe the counter." I acted as if I did not know what he meant, and I did not know how much he remembered. I did not want to trigger him. "I remember what happened, Mom. You know what he did? Here is the cloth." He said that, and I grew quiet, quite quiet. I opened and closed my mouth, wanting to ask him more, but now the situation was delicate. I needed to act as if it was all okay so that Ronald could transfer everything into my name, and once that happened, there would be nothing more to do than to wait and see. It would be explosive. He would never forget this day, for a mother never forgets or never forgives. Update number 2. Finally, there's peace in my heart. Hey guys, I'm happy to actually let you know that my plan was successful. I've avenged what happened to my son. Most say that revenge did not bring peace, it only leaves them with more scars. But few get to have the revenge which is fulfilling and leaves them feeling lighter than ever before. I'm pleased to inform you that I've successfully taken revenge on my husband, and it feels so good. He was furious, of course, and I was scared for my life for a bit, but I got out of it alive. Weeks ago, everything got transferred to my name. Then we waited for his vultures of siblings to try to sue him. They tried, and they failed, and the case was thrown out after a week. My husband was very happy, and we celebrated it. My son, on the other hand, was now starting to remember what happened. He told me everything that happened and how he saw his father right before the stove exploded. I was sad to hear that once again. My suspicions had been confirmed, and I knew that him being around his father was a bit triggering, So I sent him to stay with his mother, saying that he just needed a bit of fresh air. The scandal with his siblings had rattled his company just a little bit, so Ronald was a bit stressed. He spent most of his time trying to fix the PR nightmare, and I was also busy. For I was planning the perfect revenge when I was done with him. He was not going to be able to recognize himself. I spent the day and night organizing and planning this, and I was told that it could take weeks for part of it to be put into motion. And then one day, I woke up and got the call that it was done. I was so happy, and I woke up and washed everything in our house so that I could get rid of his scent. He knew nothing yet. He still thought that he was coming home to a doting wife. That was what was going to make this even better. I spent the whole day cleaning and packing his things so that when he came back, he would be ready to go. I put on the most stunning dress and was holding a glass of wine when he came back. He looked very jovial, saying that he had just signed a new client and the PR nightmare had ended. I told him that I had a special night planned for just the two of us, and no kids were allowed. He was excited, not knowing that I had the opposite planned for him. We had dinner, as he bragged about all he had done and how no one should mess with him. Then what I had been waiting for came, and he said,
Now, we just transfer everything back to me. I've made sure that my siblings will not be a problem.
Actually, I would like to hold on to it for a bit longer.
What do you mean, my dear? I've made sure, positively, that they cannot claim anything.
Well, he said that, trying to be patient but letting his annoyance slip through. How long did he think that he was going to keep this mask on? I was sure that he was uneasy because he did not have control. He was yearning for it, and it was right here in my hands. I mean that I've packed everything that is yours. You are to leave my house and never come back.
He dropped his glass that he had been putting up to his lips. Red wine stained his crisp white shirt.
Shock, then rage, took over his first face. The mask was off, and I was to face him for the first time without a mask, and despite my calm demeanor, I wondered what I have gotten myself into, especially when he started shouting and breaking things, throwing glasses at the walls, plates on the floor, and flowers that were on the table right at me. They might have been flowers, but they stung badly when they hit my face. I sighed and told him to calm down, otherwise I would send him a bill for all the things that he needed to replace.
After all I've done for you, have you gone mad?
He was heaving with anger, but at least he had stopped destroying my dining room. You know what you did to our son? Did you think I would let that go?
I did nothing.
Jared saw you. You could just not stand that he was slipping out of your control, could you? You're used to everyone bowing to your whim because you are the king. You are the king of this house and of my life, and I've ignored who you really are because you've kept that out of this house. But now that you've shown your ruthlessness to someone that I really carried in my womb for 9 months, I cannot ignore it another day. I've hated you ever since I found out what you've done. I've waited and wanted you to go to prison for what you've done. You're a monster, and you're done hurting people.
I was out of breath by the time I let out those words that I've been wanting to say for very long, and it felt so damn good. So, you just take everything I have and kick me out? You're so ungrateful. I did everything for you, for our family.
His voice was thundering and echoed across the entire house. It was like a roar. Actually, I've donated 60% of your net worth to charity. The rest is mine.
Well, I can divorce you, yeah, and get everything back. No. In fact, I'll sue you.
He smiled sadistically, and he could try, but I own nothing. What was left was now in my son's name. He just didn't know that yet.
We argued for a while after that before I threatened him with security, and then he left, and I let out a sigh when he left. I cannot believe that I've managed it. I've managed to do it. Donate everything and get away with it? I can't believe it. It has been 2 days since he's left.
Final updates.
Hey all. Yeah, I'm still alive. My psycho ex-husband did not kill me and put me in a body bag, although I'm sure I was close to ending up that way. A lot of this happened, so let me get to it. After I donated everything to charity, he tried to get it back. He tried to sue me, and he tried to sue the charities, but everything was legal. There was nothing that he could do. He was left with virtually nothing, and he was angry, and the whole town felt his wrath. He was always drinking and getting into fights with anyone that dared look at him. The news about what happened spread, and some people believed me about what happened, while others said that I was cheating, and I made everything up. My son got better eventually and was able to give a statement to the police. Unfortunately, they told him that he was not a credible witness because of his previous mental breakdowns, but at least my family was supportive of us. They protected me when my husband tried to break into my house and hurt me one night. My father and brothers were in the house at the time, and once I pressed my panic button, they got him. I decided that I needed to file a restraining order at that point because it was getting out of hand, so I did just that. I filed for divorce just a few days later, but he refused to sign it. He continued to try to press charges against me, but each time his charges fell through. 6 months later, I got divorced. I sold the remainder of the assets and moved to a small town with my children, and no one in my town except my parents know exactly where we are. And if he finds us, then there is a restraining order against him. He just needs to step out of line once, and then he'll end up in jail, but other than that, we're happy and healing. After Jared testified against his father, even though nothing was done about it, he started to feel better. I managed to get him to finish high school, and he passed very well. He was very proud of himself. Amelia is doing well in school, and Jared is starting culinary school in just a few weeks. I know he can do it. He's come so far, and I am back at work, and it feels so great. It feels free in a way I have not felt for over 2 years.
So this story was that of revenge. I have not seen a revenge story like this in quite some time, but I am just rooting for OP the whole time, like, yes, put those assets in your name and you take everything, because what OP's husband did is absolutely disgusting. I mean, he basically tried to kill his own son, and nobody could ever prove it, but basically everybody knew the truth. I would like to hear from you guys what you think about this position that OP was in. And thank goodness at the end of the story, she gets her revenge and goes ahead and takes everything from him. He even tried to come back and sue her in court and absolutely failed. And I'm glad that he did, because this could have ended way worse. I mean, he traumatized his son, left him with so many bad burns that he had to do surgery to replace his skin. Guys, this story was absolutely crazy. I want to hear from you in the comment section. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day, and yeah, some of the stories are as crazy as today's. You never know what we're going to come across here on the channel, so hit that subscribe button. It does help support me a lot. Thank you for that. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!